Okay, so you're thinking about becoming a photography shop manager. Smart move. It's a really cool gig. You've given us a ton of career guides and interview pips to go through, so let's just dive in and get you up to speed.
Yeah, and from the looks of these RoleCatcher guides you've given us, you're clearly interested in more than just the technical side of photography.
For sure. These guides really paint a picture of a photography shop manager as someone who does it all. You're not just a gearhead, you're like a business mogul.
Exactly. And that's what makes this role so interesting. Take inventory management, for example.
Okay.
In a typical store, it's all about, like, stocking shelves. But in a photography shop, you're curating an ecosystem.
Oh, wow. You've got vintage cameras and high-end lenses and drones. You probably even have some film in there somewhere.
Precisely. You need to know what photographers in your area are shooting weddings, landscapes, wildlife, and stock accordingly. And let's not forget about rental equipment. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that role catcher guide mentioned needing to analyze sales data, and I bet it's a lot more than just knowing like which lens is flying off the shelves.
Absolutely. It's about spotting trends. Are mirrorless cameras finally taking over? Is there a surge in demand for underwater photography gear? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're using that data to make strategic decisions. You're not just reacting to what's already happened.
So it's like being a trend forecaster, but for photography gear, which honestly, that sounds pretty awesome.
It does have its perks.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the challenges. The guide mentions irregular income, which can be a bit of a roller coaster.
Okay, so imagine this. Wedding season is booming and sales are through the roof, but then comes January and things slow down. How do you manage that cash flow, especially if you're partly reliant on commissions? That's something to think about, especially if you're used to a steady paycheck.
You got it. And it definitely requires a degree of financial planning and adaptability. But now, on a more positive note, the guide also highlights the incredible creative energy of this field.
Yeah, right. You're surrounded by people who share your passion for photography, both your team and the customers that walk through the door. And speaking of the team, let's talk about career progression. The guide lays out a very clear path from sales associate to regional manager.
And it's really cool how those responsibilities evolve. You start by learning the products and mastering customer service.
So basically, you're becoming everyone's go-to gear guru.
Precisely. And as you climb the ladder, you're not just managing a store anymore, you're managing people, analyzing those market trends, even looking at what the competition is doing.
That regional manager profile on the guide really caught my eye. They're basically photography business strategists.
Exactly. They need to understand the big picture. Where is the photography market headed? What are the new technologies that might disrupt the industry? It's a role that needs a really deep understanding of both photography and business.
It's incredible how much potential for growth there is in this field. You could start by like selling a customer their first DSLR and then end up shaping the entire vision for an entire region. But before you start picking out business cards.
You need to talk about the elephant in the room. Or should I say the algorithm in the application?
Yes. AI. The RoleCatcher materials mention this RoleCatcher Copilot AI that helps you with the job search, which sounds like a game changer.
It certainly can be. But it is important to remember that employers are using AI too. Applicant tracking systems, or ATS, are becoming more and more common in the hiring process.
So while we have AI helping us put our best foot forward, there's AI on the other side of the screen deciding if we even get an interview.
Yeah.
That is both fascinating and slightly terrifying.
Yeah, it's a whole new world of job hunting, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But it's something that once you kind of understand how these systems work can make all the difference.
Okay, so how do we level the playing field? What's the secret to like standing out, even with AI calling some of the shots?
Well, it's not about beating the system, but working with it. Imagine the ATS as a very literal-minded photographer. It sees keywords and clear formatting and specific examples of your experience.
Okay, I think I get it.
So instead of just saying, like, passionate about photography, right?
Yeah.
You'd say something like, spent 5 years shooting landscapes, specializing in astrophotography. My work has been featured in.
Oh, that's a way better way to put it.
Exactly. You're giving the AI those concrete details to latch onto. And another thing, don't forget about online profiles. A lot of these ATS scan those too.
Oh, wow.
So make sure your LinkedIn, your online portfolio, even your Instagram, if it's relevant, they all tell a consistent and compelling story about you.
So it's like you're building your own like personal brand, but
Yeah.
with an AI audience in mind.
Yes, precisely. But even with AI, the human element is still key. Once you land that interview.
It's showtime.
Yeah.
And no algorithm can replace that face-to-face connection.
Exactly. And this is where your passion for photography really becomes your superpower. Imagine you're asked about, let's say, like handling a difficult customer. Instead of just giving some like generic answer, tell a story.
Oh, I love a good story. Give me an example.
Okay, let's say a customer was furious because their new lens malfunctioned on a once-in-a-lifetime trip. You could say something like, I totally understand your frustration. This lens was supposed to like capture memories, not headaches. Let's get this sorted out. You're acknowledging their passion, not just the problem.
That's brilliant. You're not just a salesperson, you're a fellow photography enthusiast who gets it.
Exactly. And share your knowledge. Did you attend a workshop led by a famous photographer? Mention it. Have you been experimenting with some new editing technique? Talk about it. Enthusiasm. It's contagious.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, hey, I'm not just here for the paycheck. I live and breathe this stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I noticed that the RoleCatcher guide didn't really get into like salary expectations, and I know it's a little awkward to bring up, but let's be real, it's important.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that's best approached with research and confidence. Don't be afraid to ask about the salary range for the position, especially if you're towards the end of the interview and they haven't mentioned it.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's not even just about the money itself. Do they offer benefits that are tailored to photographers? Like health insurance is great, but what about like equipment insurance or professional development opportunities?
Excellent point. Those perks can make a big difference. It shows they're invested in your growth as a photographer, not just an employee.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about AI, interview skills, even like salary negotiation. But there's one more thing that these guides didn't really cover that I think is crucial.
And what's that?
It's the ability to inspire.
Yeah.
A photography shop manager, they're not just managing a business, right? They're nurturing a community.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about like fostering a love of photography in everyone who walks through the door.
Exactly. You might have a seasoned pro who's coming in looking for a new macro lens, and you can geek out with them about like all the latest gear. Or you could have like a nervous student buying their very first camera.
Right.
And you can be that person who helps them feel confident and excited about starting their photography journey.
It's about remembering that photography is art, it's storytelling, it's about like capturing a moment in time. And as the photography shop manager, you really have a chance to be a guide, a mentor, a source of inspiration.
Yeah. And sometimes maybe even a therapist,
Well,
like when that customer comes in totally heartbroken because they accidentally deleted all the photos from their dream vacation.
Yeah, exactly. You're dealing with people's passions, their memories, their creative aspirations. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's also a huge privilege.
It really is. It makes you think about the impact that you can have. It's not just about hitting your sales targets. It's about fostering a community, sharing your love of photography, and maybe even inspiring, the next generation of photographers.
And who knows, maybe one day you'll see some stunning photograph on display and realize, wow, that was taken by someone who bought their very first camera from me.
Now that's job satisfaction. Okay, so to wrap things up, we've really walked through the exciting world of being a photography shop manager. You've got the inside scoop on what it really takes to excel, from mastering all the technical skills to, embracing the power of AI and building those meaningful connections with your team and customers. But I think the thing that's most important to remember is this.
Passion is your superpower.
Let that love for photography shine through, and you'll be well on your way to framing a really rewarding career.